Let us pray. Almighty God, the creator and ruler of heaven and earth, we beseech thee to inspire and guide all our actions, so that we always walk in the path of justice, love, and charity to one another. Help us with thy grace to do only those things that will promote the unity, peace, happiness, and prosperity of Nigeria in general and Lagos State in particular. Amen. Good afternoon, distinguished colleagues. You are all welcome to today's sitting. Let us go through the votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 2nd November 2021. Page 422, page 423, I have examined the votes and proceedings of Tuesday, 2nd November 2021 and approval is here granted. Any message from the governor?
Good morning, Right Honorable Speaker, sir. Distinguished honorable members, there is no message from the
Any
government.
other announcements?
Right Honorable Speaker, sir, there is none, sir.
Petition?
None, sir.
Matter of urgent public importance, Honorable Rutimolo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My colleague, good afternoon. Mr. Speaker, my colleague, since last week, I've been a bit distraught by the development in the Plateau State House of Assembly, where 6 members impeached the Speaker. And when you look at Plateau State House of Assembly, they are numbered 24. And when you look at section 92 sub 2C, talks so unambiguously about the election and impeachment of Mr. Speaker and Deputy Speaker. The 2C inter says that 2/3 of the majority members must vote in support of such a move before the speaker can be removed. The issue there is this, that I'm worried because the bastion of democracy is the legislature. And today, in the hands of the executive, we are being just manipulated anyhow. Because what led to this so-called alleged impeachment, it borders on the state of insecurity in Plateau State, where communities were ravaged and people were killed. Even houses burnt. In a space of 1 month, over 130 people murdered. And the House, being the representative of the people, communicated their thinking, their thought, and their resolve that all those victims must be compensated, and there's the need for the governor to visit so that they can feel him. But they said the governor never acceded to all those. Yes, when we say resolution is persuasive, but then if it borders on the people that we represent, I think we still have immunity to talk about people we represent. You cannot come to Shomolu and kill my people and think I'll be in the House of Assembly, I will not talk about it. And that was what led to that. But my take, Mr. Speaker, will be that, unfortunately, the drama that ensued bordered on the fact that 5 a.m., some about 6 to 8 members went to the chamber, and unfortunately for them, the other side had wind of what will transpire that particular day, and they were there with them. They wrestled the mace and they collected the mace from them. So how will 6 people sit and impeach the speaker without the mace? Because the authority of any House of Assembly or any legislative house is the mace. So, Mr. Speaker, I believe that unfortunately, the man, everybody is now pointing accusing fingers on his governor of the state, who incidentally was an impeached speaker of the Plateau House of Assembly. Is supposed to know better and supposed to uphold the sanctity of the house rather than desecrating it. So I am bothered. I'm bothered in the sense that even the law enforcement agents who are supposed to impartially meddle into the issue became so partial in such a manner that they arrested Right Honorable Ayuba and other level members in the House of Assembly. They invaded the House of Assembly, shot it sporadically in the house. I think the 3 arms of government are supposed to be independent and we have our autonomy. I don't want the meddliness of the executive or the judiciary into our own affairs, and that is the reason why I am a bit worried. So, Mr. Speaker, with the concurrence of my colleague, I want to say we condemn in totality the illegal impeachment of the Right Honorable Speaker Ayuba. Then as well, we condemn the invasion of the House and the arrest of the 12 honorable members by the police. Because if we are not careful, it will snowball to become a very serious problem, violence, that would disintegrate Plateau State the more. We know Plateau State have fragile security architecture for now. But if you allow this to happen, it will disintegrate and it's going to affect even their economy. So my take is that I want to beg on my colleague to support me at condemning what they've done and to call on the Conference of Speakers to liaise with Nigerian Governors Forum with a view to resolving it. Because we are not talking about peace here. We are not talking about truth here. We are talking about justice. If only 6 people could prevail, and today we have 2 speakers, and nobody is talking about which one is authentic, which one is not the authentic. Today, the supporters of Sanda and the supporters of Ayuba, they are loggerheads. Even those honorable members that are supporting the Right Honorable Ayuba, they are more. So in their whole constituency, the whole of Plateau is on fire now. If nothing is done, then we need to call on the Inspector General of Police to caution his personnel on how to maintain peace and security in that state without bias and partiality. Then again, the Director General of SSS should do the same thing at ensuring that they strengthen the security architecture in that state in such a manner that it will not lead to cyber war and it will not engulf that state as a whole. So I move, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Distinguished colleagues, good afternoon. Democracy has come to stay. However, of the three arms of government, the one saddled with the responsibility of upholding the tenets of democracy will remain the legislative arm of the government. Mr. Speaker, after 2 decades of democracy, it is shameful that we would have such occurrence at the House of Assembly in Plateau State. Mr. Speaker, where 6 members of 24 members of House of Assembly would impeach the Speaker of the House of Assembly is a shame. It goes to show that we are not ready to uphold the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999 as amended, and we cannot practice as we were in the law. Mr. Speaker, I rise to also condemn the act of the 6 members who went ahead to impeach the Speaker of the Plateau State House of Assembly, and also to condemn impunity. Mr. Speaker, what is most appalling is that as of the moment, the House of Assembly is under lock and keys, and the people who have voted for representation are locked out of the office because of this singular act of impunity. Mr. Speaker, I want to also ask my colleague to also join us in condemning this act, and so that we should also call on the party, the leadership of the party, to ensure that further actions such as this will not erupt in other House of Assemblies to disrupt the moments that we are having in the House of Assemblies and the peace we are enjoying. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon, Mr. Speaker and my colleagues. Plateau, as we all know, lies in the central part of our dear country. Plateau is a very peaceful place in those days. Everybody would like to live on the plateau because the weather and everything is likened to what we have in Europe and America. But I will tell you today, because of this insecurity that we have all around, Plateau has turned to another thing. One crisis too many. We've gone through this before. Like Honorable Luwu said, the governor of the state was one time the Speaker of the House, and he was also impeached. And he knew what is meant by the sanctity of the legislative arm of government. One should perhaps think that there should be a coordinated and peaceful relationship with all the arms of the government in the state. Now, what is bad in the Speaker saying that this killing in the state is too much? The insecurity in Plateau is getting too much, and resolutions of the House were passed to reflect the will of the people. What we expect if for this resolution to be upheld and for lasting solution in terms of peace to be found into the problem on the plateau. Mr. Speaker, I want to thank you again for bringing this to the front burner, because the conspiracy of silence on this matter by our leader cannot be acceptable. We expect that our leaders should stand up and rise to the occasion at this particular moment, especially the National Assembly. We should talk, because if we keep quiet and we don't talk at the right time, when bad things continue to happen, we keep quiet, it will become a norm. People will assume that the bad things that we are doing are the right things, and we take it for our culture. This is condemnable. I want to join Honorable Lowe and other members, and I want to seek that we should condemn this act. It cannot continue like this. If it happens in Plateau, it's happening in Imo, it's happening almost everywhere, it's happening in Edo State. And we keep on keeping silent, as if only Lagos State House of Assembly is the only House of Assembly in the country that is saddled with the responsibility of talking at every time things like this happen. So we must speak up. We must talk to the conscience of Nigerians. We must talk to the conscience of our leaders. This is a time to stop this. It's an aberration on our democracy, and I believe we must put a stop to it. Mr. Speaker, thank you very much for providing this leadership. You've always done it, and you continue to do it. Thank you very much. May God bless Nigeria.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Good afternoon, distinguished colleagues. Mr. Speaker, our democracy is on a deathbed at the moment with this type of actions. After almost 23 years of enjoying a sound democracy in our countries, we now have one state that's acting of its own volition. We have 23 members in the House of Assembly, and only 6 to 8 of them are voting out a speaker. If there's no mace there, Mr. Speaker, no proceedings have happened. From what I understand from our own House proceedings, from what the Constitution says, it is very clear. If there is no mace, there is no quorum, those proceedings simply did not happen. They're not valid. So why are we discussing this so long? It is something that we should all, I enjoin all my colleagues who've spoken before me, Mr. Speaker, that we should call on our leaders, we should call on the state executives, the governors of the states. They should all come together and find a way to address this situation very quickly. Because if this proceeds, this morning we're seeing breaking news that even Imo State as well is going through the same thing, where just 6 members are removing a speaker. Mr. Speaker, this is not called for. This is not right. We must stand against this wholeheartedly. Thank you, sir.
Honorable Council.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise this morning to join my honorable colleagues, especially the mover of this very important, urgent public matter, Honorable Olo. And this issue of impeachment here and there is slowly becoming, it's fast becoming a very huge threat on our democracy, just as mentioned by some of our colleagues. It is becoming a precedent that we must stop. Just this morning, it happened in Imo, just rightly mentioned by Honorable Ajani. Where is our autonomy when it comes to having a perfect legislature, hoping for a better democracy as years go by, and indeed enough for the future? These acts of impunity must, one way or the other, be nipped in the bud to discontinue such acts. However, Mr. Speaker, I want to give kudos to the Lagos State House of Assembly under your leadership, and of course the Southwest, haven't produced the harmonized standing orders and business rules of the Southwest. Perhaps this is one reason why a lot of the Southwest assemblies are progressing in terms of legislature. This is a point where those in the Southeast, those in the North should actually now take a leaf from what is happening in the Southwest, seeing us as pace setters, and of course should follow suit in terms of example, and making the legislature a better place to be, and of course an institution to widely respect. Institutions where thugs are now encouraged to willfully just have access to a secret place such as the hallowed chambers is totally despicable and should be eradicated forthwith. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Good morning, Right Honorable Speaker, distinguished colleagues. The Plateau State House of Assembly and all the House of Assembly in Nigeria are creations of the Constitution, which must act in conformity and in consonance with the rules and regulations of 1999 Constitution as stipulated. If you look at the section 92 sub 2C of our Constitution, the making and the removal of a Speaker of the House of Representatives, the only way you can do that is through a resolution of the House, is through votes, and which must be written. and the Nigerian security operatives that locked the Plateau State House of Assembly under lock and key have deprived the Nigerian people, has deprived the electorate who elected the members to represent them on issues bordering on their security, bordering on economy, bordering on development, has been denied the right to exercise their right as enshrined in Nigerian Constitution. The Plateau State House of Assembly should, one way or another, know that out of it, when a two-third is not formed, what they've done is barely an aberration. Even the House rule stipulates that the House must commence its plenary or legislative business 9 a.m. And before 9 a.m., some members assembled that have not formed quorum, and they did what is known as aberration. I think democracy has come to stay in Nigeria, and we, the player of democracy, must act in consonance with our constitution, must act in conformity with the standing rules of the House, because we cannot be a lawmaker voted for by the people and be breaking the law, and we expect democracy to grow with the way the people that have elected us are expecting us to be. I call on the stakeholders, critical stakeholders in Plateau State, that the whole world is watching, that people are watching. The right thing should be done, and we expect that the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria regarding Plateau State and some other states that are thinking but have not done what they're supposed to do should go in line and work in tandem with the Constitution in the provision or removal of the Speaker. Thank you, Honorable Speaker, sir.
Honorable Abode.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. It is only shenanigans that can take or act in that manner. There is a lot of lacuna in the process that brought about the so-called no speaker. One, they've talked about the timing, but the most important is the quorum. 24 members quorum for sitting is 1/3, which is supposed to be 8 members. In that manner, it is already vitiated. So even if they go to court, it shows that it is non void ab initio. Again, a situation where the security operative lays siege in the House of Assembly, the people that were elected by the masses, and the people are talking about killing of the masses. It is appalling. Then I want to have our mind to two things. When they arrested them and took that mace, they went to bring another mace. Where did they got that mace? That's one. Two, by the time they do their kangaroo impeachment, they now went to the chief of staff of the state. Why the governor, the executive governor of Plateau State, is saying that he doesn't know anything about it, but still the chief of staff welcomed them and said that they are going to work in tandem. If we are going to condemn, we are not just only condemning those people that perpetrated it. We have to look inward and say something about the executive, because if they don't have the executive backing, how would they now go to the House of Assembly and the security operative will lay siege so that the other people will not come in? I am supporting Honorable Olowo on this, and I equally condemn this totally, and we are asking the Plateau State government to do the needful to make sure that they reinstate the former, I won't say the former, they will allow the speaker
to continue his work. That is Speaker Ayuba. Thank you.
Honorable Satonji.
Thank you very much, sir, the right honorable speaker. I want to appreciate Honorable Olowo for bringing this matter up because it's a very important matter. The Lagos State House of Assembly has always been at the forefront of fighting for democracy. And we all know that the Constitution, by the value of the Constitution we pass in this country, the legislative arm of government is the best thing of democracy. Remove legislator, there is no democracy. And the procedure for removing the Speaker of the House is very clear in the Constitution. There is no ambiguity about it. How can you now, a House of 34 people, members, now have 6 members conducting the business of the day? That is illegal in the first place. So we have to condemn this. And in no clear terms, I condemn this action by these 6 members. That we must not ridicule our democracy. We must not truncate democracy we are practicing now in this country. So I wholeheartedly support my colleague for bringing this to the fore, that we must not allow this. And I also want to encourage the other houses of assembly that we have to protect democracy, because it's the best form of government, and the whole world is gradually coming to terms with the fact that Nigeria is doing what is right. How can we now degenerate to this level? By now, 6 members just sitting down somewhere and doing such an illegal, transaction. This is a very bad omen. And for that reason, I wholeheartedly support the motion that this thing must be condemned in clear terms. Thank you, sir.
Deputy Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I join my distinguished colleagues in supporting Honorable Olowo on this all-important removal, as it were, of the Speaker of Plateau State House of Assembly. However, going forward, I want Mr. Speaker to recall that during the constitutional review sitting in Lagos, the position of Lagos State House of Assembly is that they should criminalize executive intervention in the state houses of assembly matter, especially all these removal, impeachment, and what have you. And I think that the Conference of Speakers should move forward, but even if there is anything they will sponsor, they should sponsor this in the constitutional review that is ongoing presently. Let me say that most lawmakers are only taking advantage of the situation, as it were. Were that to be done, the governor would have been culpable, and even he said, or that's what Assembly said that even the officers, the police officers that took part in such action should be prosecuted. If that had been done for in one or two instances, this thing would not have continued. Secondly, also take advantage of the judicial process in Nigeria. If you go to court right now with this matter, it may take 2 years before it is resolved. I think there should be a way that the judiciary should also help in stabilizing democracy. They should also find a way that in this instance, maybe it is when there is issue between the state and the federal government, they go straight to the Supreme Court. When there is constitutional breaches in the House of Assembly, I think they should just approach the Supreme Court for interpretation if the right thing or the wrong thing is done. And there should also, like the electoral matter, a time frame should be stipulated in not more than 1 month. It should be resolved. If that is done, nobody will try it, because you know that you will only be there for like 2 weeks, and you will also face the consequences of your action, the executive, the police officers, and what have you. So I'm suggesting all of that the judiciary should also come to play, finding a way, like electoral matter, in cases of breaches, constitutional breaches in the legislature, they should resolve it within 1 month or 2 weeks by the Supreme Court. Thank you very much. That will be my contribution, Mr. Speaker.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I have a little to say in this matter. I just hope that the little I will say will make impact. When illegality is condoned, impunity develops. This will not be the first time that very few people below what is required by Constitution will impeach Speaker democratically elected by other members. But the problem we've been having is that such speakers that come to power through the aberration is quickly recognized by the Conference of Speakers. I will sit with them. Mr. Speaker will recall that in one of the Speakers Conference, I had the privilege of attending with Mr. Speaker, I think in Ibadan also. Such matter was raised where the impeached speaker, the speaker that benefited from the aberration, attended the Speaker Conference. Mr. Speaker, I think that the Speakers Conference should be seen before the end of this week.
Majority Leader, before we go further, I would like you to complete what happened at the meeting.
At
the Ibadan meeting you referred to.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the position taken, particularly from Lagos.
Yes, sir. That's why I'm saying that it was your person that raised the issue of the attendance of the speaker that benefited the aberration at the meeting. And that was what generated the debate. You stood clearly against it, Mr. Speaker. I am saying that between now and the end of this week, we will expect the Speaker Conference to come openly to condemn what has happened the way Lagos State is condemning it. And we will expect the Speakers Conference to dissociate themselves from that person who has been elected illegally. When a coup occurs in any country, you will see some head of states from other country condemning and sanctioning that particular state and not recognizing the coup. When illegality happens in the House of Assembly, when a minority impeaches the speaker, it's like a coup, and we should be treated as such with a serious leg hammer against such persons that benefited from it. That will make it unfashionable. That will discourage others who may want to be tempted by it. It was done in Plateau and we learned in another state is being perpetrated this morning. We don't know where it will happen tomorrow because they are getting away with it as they have gotten away with it. I think Speakers Conference should rise now and defend themselves by not recognizing anyone who comes into power through such illegality. It is constitutional aberration and must not be protected. When we are rising against it, we expect the conference that puts all the speakers together to also condemn that. So, Mr. Speaker, with due respect, we are condemning it. We are also sending you to your colleagues in the Speaker Conference to rise and challenge the situation the way we are challenging it under your leadership in the state. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well, I want to thank you all for your contributions, and I particularly want to thank Honorable Rotimi Olowo for bringing this to fore, and some of you that have spoken. Sincerely, in my mind, I think this is a motion that we all must rise and speak about, because this is something that affects every one of us. When you talk about democracy, has rightly been observed that the heart of democracy is the parliament, because the parliament is the eyes and the ears of the people and the mouth that speaks on their behalf. And that is exactly, for the fact that it's happening in Plateau State, it has nothing to do with us. And maybe I should add this. I think this house, and when concerning removal, when you go back to the memory, there's hardly any time when impeachment has taken place in Lagos without conforming with the provision of the standing orders of the House and the Constitution. Because when this happened, I was thinking about it, I was ruminating over it, and for me, I strongly believe when the members of the House, the majority members of the House are together, there's hardly anything they cannot do, and no one can influence them when they are together. So most times I try not to bother myself about, taking preventive action or urging anybody, because we are just, what do we call it? First among the equal. We are all contemporaries, we are all equals. And Speaker emerges through the consensus agreement of others. And I think in the same manner and process, should the Speaker be removed where necessary. But in a situation where you have 6 out of 24, at times you have people convening, sitting around 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 5 a.m., just to perpetrate evil. I think it's something that we all have to rise against. It's not out of fear, but in the manner that's probably because I have a sentiment when it comes to Parliament. I've spent huge part of my life in the Parliament. It happens in Edo. We are seeing in Edo it has not been resolved as we speak, where the roof was removed and so many other things done in the name of we have budgetary provision to reconstruct the Parliament in Edo. Up to now, nothing has happened. The majority members of Edo State House of Assembly, as we speak, are now residing in Abuja, while the minority are taking charge without even having a chamber of Parliament to operate from. And yet, we have a system, we have a constitution. Nobody is talking about it. Nobody. During the inauguration of 9th Assembly, in some of the houses of Assembly, the inauguration was carried out in the midnight, early in the morning, 6 a.m., 7 a.m., and yet it continues. Now we have Plateau. Now we are talking about Imo State. So where is our democracy? We talk about constitutional democracy. Where is the Constitution? So it is an opportunity for us to rise against this. And from this House, Lagos State House of Assembly, so it shows that it's not fluke, that we always say we are above common standard of excellence. As said by the Deputy Speaker, in the constitutional amendments exercise, our position was that anything that has to do with that works against the Parliament should be criminalized. The invasion of the Parliament, the manipulation either from executive, from the police, from anybody should criminalize. That was our position in the constitutional amendment exercise that took place of recent. Because if we don't do that, this thing will continue. How can 6 people remove a speaker of 24 members House of Assembly and nobody is doing anything about it? And the Commissioner of Police, Edward Etuk, was so bold to close down, to invade the Parliament. And we must commend the Inspector General of Police, what is his name, Baba Alkali, for taking bold action immediately by removing the Commissioner of Police from that state. We commend him, we thank him for doing what is right. And in the same manner, the man should be sanctioned, the CP of that state should be sanctioned. Beyond removing him from that state, there should be further sanction to stand as deterrent to others. And we also call on the IG to make sure they open the Parliament. You can't lock up the Parliament. It has never happened in the history of this country where government service has been locked. So why do you easily lock up the Parliament? When any state that the Parliament does not exist, maybe for a day or two, that means there is no democracy. Then the military should take control of such states. if there's no parliament in existence, in operations, then there's no democracy. Well, there's no way we can practice democracy without the parliament. So we are calling on Mr. President, this is the high time to defend the Constitution. And that is the responsibility of the President to rise up and defend the Constitution, as he has to do, particularly with Plateau State. And in Edo as well. So I sincerely want to support this motion as being raised by Honorable Rotimi Olowo, that we must rise up and condemn this exercise, and we should take position as enumerated by Olowo and the raised by our colleagues, that we should commend the Inspector General of Police for the action taken on the Commissioner of the Police. We should call on Mr. President to rise up and defend the Constitution. We should also do same to Senate President and Speaker of House of Reps, and also the Attorney General of the Federation, who is the Chief Law Officer of the country, to also do same. While we commend the people of Plateau for supporting the distinguished honorable members of that House and the Speaker, and not the rebels, we should commend them and call on the governor of that state to do the needful. Being former Speaker, he should defend the Constitution and distinguish his position as a Democrat and not otherwise. Why I join majority of leaders to call on the Speakers' Conference, Forum of the Speakers' Conference, to also rise up and do same as we are doing here in the Lagos State House of Assembly. Can you quickly put that together and let's have your prayer, Honorable Olowo?
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. You have said it all. I hope the clerk at table, you're able to cash in on what Oga said, so that we don't talk in parables. This House highly condemned the act of impunity and lawlessness perpetrated by the minority members of the Plateau House of Assembly in the alleged impeachment of Right Honorable Ayuba. Also condemned in its entirety the act of partiality perpetrated by the Nigerian police and other security agencies in the state, whereby they arrested 12 members of the House of Assembly in the House of Assembly. Therefore, we resolve to call on the Conference of Speakers to liaise with Nigerian Governor Forum to urgently resolve the problem and ensure that the beneficial Speaker of the...
Sorry, Honorable Olowo, I didn't mention that. I think they have taken steps. They had a meeting with the Governors Forum.
Okay.
So the conference is doing that.
Okay,
so
Conference of Speakers to ensure that the beneficiary Speaker of illegal impeachment is not allowed to attend the Speakers' Conference. Call to appreciate the Inspector General of Police and Inspector General of Police Inspector General of Police and rising up to the occasion and ensuring that it's peace and
to open to ensure that the Parliament, Plateau State House of Assembly, is opened. It's under lock as we speak.
We call to commend the Inspector General of Police on the peace achieved in the state, and as well to call him to direct the Commissioner of Police to unseal the House to allow for legislative business to commence. And as amended by Mr. Honorable Speaker, we call on the President, Mr. Muhammadu Buhari, to rise up to the occasion and defend the Constitution by ensuring the issued at Edo State House of Assembly and that of Plateau State are resolved without any further delay. Ditto Senate President, Speaker of the House of Rep, and the Attorney General of the Federation. So I move.
Yeah, before secondment, the majority leader called my attention to that where the parliament is not in existence, that is like into a situation where there has been military invasion or coup. So that is what was mentioned. So just to correct the position. Sorry. Yeah, Honorable Macaulay.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. All right, second motion is moved.
All in favor say aye. Those against no, the ayes have it. Mr. Clark, kindly direct our resolve to appropriate quarters. Personal explanations, non-reports, non-business of the day. Presentation of reports. So, oh, sorry. Leaving of reports, Honorable Ajani.
Good afternoon, Right Honorable Speaker, distinguished colleagues. I stand before you here today with the report of the Committee on Education, Tertiary Institutions on a bill for a law to provide for the establishment of the University of Education and for connected purposes. I so move. Once again, distinguished colleagues, Right Honorable Speaker, I stand before you again today with a report of the Committee on Education, Tertiary Institutions on a bill for a law to establish the Lagos State University of Science and Technology to make provisions for its powers, functions, and general administration and for non-connected purposes. I so move.
Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, next on the other paper is House of Assembly motion number 34. Motion titled Curbing the Incessant Collapse of Building in the State. The prime mover of this motion, Mr. Speaker, is Honorable Akisoya A.N. from Motion 1. Other persons supporting the motions, other honorable members supporting the motion are myself, Honorable Adams, the Deputy Majority Leader from Etiosa, Honorable Mrs. Miranda M.L. Apapa 1, the Chief Whip, Honorable Mrs. Shagodaya M.R., the Deputy Whip, Honorable Oshun M.O., Lagos Mainland 1, Honorable Tobun M.A., April 1, Honorable Engineer Yishao G.O.R. Etiosa 2, Honorable Engineer David S.S. Badagry 1, Honorable Makinde R1, Honorable R.I. Ifako Ijayi 2, Honorable Luwa O.F. Ajeromi Ifelodun 2, Honorable Engineer David S.S. Badagry 2, Honorable Elliot D.O. Surulere 1, Honorable Lumo S.L. Ajeromi Ifelodun 1, Honorable Mrs. Ali Macaulay K.M. Amuwu Odofin 1, Honorable Afini O.S. Lagos Island 2. With your kind permission, Mr. Speaker, I invite Honorable Akisoya AN to move his motion. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Good morning, Right Honorable Speaker, my honorable colleague. Covering the incessant collapse of buildings in the state, this House knows that the enactment of urban and regional planning law development law, which states the function of agencies such as Lagos State Physical Planning Permit Authority, Lagos State Building Control Agency, Lagos State Urban Renewal Agency, and Lagos State Safety Commission Law of Lagos State 2015, with a view to ensure the proper monitoring of building development from the design stage through construction to the completion, among others. Further note, the recent collapse of 360-degree towers, a 21-story high-rise block of luxurious flats with 63 apartment units under construction at Jarad Road, Ikoyi, on Monday 1st November 2021. The collapsed building under reference caused untimely death of artisans and devastating injury on the innocent people at the project site. It's worrying about why speculation that the building was raised to 21st floor, contrary to the 15th floor approved by the Lagos State Physical Planning Permit Authority, LSHA, for the owner. It's further worrying that over time, the state has recorded a series of building collapse, like a 5-story building at Lekki in November 2006 and a 3-story building at Itafaji in 2016, among others. And is disturbed about the inside building collapse with the state and the manner in which agencies set up to inspect building work, giving certification at various stages of construction and keeping of records to easy of reference, and realize that the frequent case of building collapse can be attributed to unqualified or unskilled builders, use of substandard building materials, illegal conversion and alteration to the existing structures, and lack of maintenance to mention a few. Results are: call on the Governor of Lagos State, Mr. Babajide Sanwo-Olu, to direct the relevant agency to ensure that all building requirements as stipulated in Extant Law of the state are strictly adhered to, and as matter of urgency, cause the review of the policy on building construction in the state. 2. To mandate the House Committee on Physical Planning and Urban Development to invite the Commissioner, Ministry of Physical Planning and Urban Development, as well as other agencies saddled with the responsibility of issuing approval, monitoring of construction and project development, with a view of ascertaining the level of compliance with Extant laws and regulations relating to the building in the state. I so move.
Honorable Kemitoba.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rest upon the motion as moved.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Those against no. The ayes are resolved. Honorable Lobo.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and my colleague once again. Good afternoon. Mr. Speaker, the motion, I think, is all-encompassing, and I think it has met the requirements of myself and probably some other members. I would just want to implore my other colleagues to support it so that it can go, because it's well couched and it met all our requirements. Thank you, sir.
Honorable Wilson.
I thank you, Mr. Speaker. Honorable colleagues, as this bill, I must thank the proponent. I must thank the proponent of this motion, my dear colleague, Honorable Akisoya, for bringing this to the fore. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, the incidences of collapsed building
in Lagos State is becoming worrisome and calamitous. Every day you get to hear the news of building collapse. It is unacceptable in Lagos. It is unacceptable because Lagos State government has invested a lot and has also put in place a lot in the building control agencies. The question to ask is whether we have agencies or authorities in charge of building control. The answer is emphatic yes.
Are you still, or you are done with your presentation?
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Ogundiwe.
Thank you, Dr. Honorable Speaker. Good afternoon, my colleagues. Well, I think the motion in question is all encompassing. And when you look at the second part of the motion, Right Honorable Speaker, it has even given the standing committee of the House the power to go into the details, which I think we will still come back to discuss. Well, the proactiveness of the House is always very good to really let the public know that what we want to do or what we are doing is all about the interest of the public. And going into this one in details or going from one point to another is just to really still doing the work we want the committee to go and do. I will support what is in these prayers, and we should give the committee the power to go into the nitty-gritty of these findings so that they can be able to get back to the House to report to us. Thank you, Honorable Speaker.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and good afternoon, colleagues. In as much as I want to agree with my colleagues that the motion is self-explanatory, but I think we need to put some things on record, Mr. Speaker. And number one is the fact that we need to commend the House under your leadership, because as soon as it happened, you mandated the House Committee to visit the scene. That's highly commendable. I want to commend the government again for the committee that has been set up. But Mr. Speaker, sir, in as much as we will come back to discuss the finding of the of the committee, I think it's high time as a house, as a government, we do something about this. It's a sad day in the state, and the committee would go and sit down and look at what is happening. But let me just put this on record, sir. I think it's high time we start to have people punished. The government set up a committee to look into it, and we don't want to preempt the findings of the committee. And the House has gone there. I'm sure they have a report of what was seen at the scene. But until we begin to have culprits for all these things, I think we are going nowhere. We wait for the report of the committee so that we don't do. But the law that says that when the House comes down, the land is reverted back to the state. Should start looking at when the land goes down and the developer or the builder is culpable, it should be tried too. We need to look at the law, and maybe if we need to change anything in the law, this is the time to do it, sir. Thank you very much.
Honorable Satonji.
The Honorable Speaker, my colleagues, this is a very bad omen. It's unfortunate that such things has happened and has been happening for a time. There are many factors that are responsible for this kind of a thing. From the observation we have had so far, this preliminary, it seems the column buckled, and that will have led to what happened. Other factors like bad design, faulty construction, extraordinary loads, unexpected, undesigned load, and things like that could have been responsible. But I believe the House has taken the right step because the Committee on Physical Planning and Urban Development went to the site immediately to observe, and the preliminary report is coming out. So I think we need to take the necessary steps to ensure that things like this do not happen in our state again. Thank you, sir.
Majority Leader. Mr. Speaker, first I want to commend the chairman and members of the Physical Planning Committee of the House for their prompt response to the unfortunate incident. I've been there as representative of the people and a committee from the House of Assembly. I also want to commend the chairman of the committee for a quick response of bringing this motion before the House to get the mandate to do what they want to do. But I just want to make a very slight amendment to prayer number 2, where those that should be invited are spelled out. I just want to crave the indulgence of the Prime Mover and the House to add that aside from this and any other persons or agency that should be invited in the course of doing their responsibility. Mr. Speaker, I also think it is proper for us to commiserate with the families of those who woke up in the morning on that day, went to the site and never returned because they died at the scene, and to wish those who are receiving treatment for series of injuries quick recovery. They are citizens of the state that have lost their life. We must commiserate with the families. Mr. Speaker, aside from the two, I think the motion is well packaged to take care of all that we should have been enunciating here today. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Those who have spoken on this, there is an unfortunate incident that happened in our state. Very, very unfortunate in so many ways, very, very unfortunate. When you look at the lives that have been lost, you look at the economic distress that is going to cause the state, as real estate has become a substantial source of income for the state. But so terrible that we are witnessing something so disastrous like this again in our state. And what the sentiment apart, I think we should be cautious. We should not jump into conclusion as to what materials, as to what efforts, as to the capability and capacity of the contract, the investor, the owner of the place, and what has happened. We should exercise patience before passing comments or condemning anybody until the results of the committee that was set up by the governor and the investigation that is going to be carried out by the House are out before we can take position, because from the story so far, that wasn't the first attempt of the man behind the project, both locally and internationally. So we should look at at the situation. We should carry out investigation to establish what actually went wrong. But in all this, there is no excuse about it that the agencies that are supposed to perform monitoring and evaluation of such projects have not done well. We've had so many stories, we've read some, and I think this area we should focus on as a house to establish what actually went wrong, who failed in performing its responsibility. We have about 4 or 5 under that ministry. So I quite agree with the chairman of the committee in his prayers that they should invite everybody to tell us how they perform or carry out the monitoring of such projects and what's to be done in a situation where an investor is being found wanting. So I think it's very necessary to do that. Also, as observed by Majority Leader, we should go a step further to sympathize with the family of the victims and those that lost their lives. We should identify with them at this moment, and the government should also take responsibility by doing something, in form of compensation to the family of those that lost their lives. Because I want to take a position, if the agencies that are supposed to perform their function have done the needful, probably we will have saved so many lives. So we should move beyond the investigation, we should move beyond the sympathy only, and also do something in form of compensation to the family of the victims and those that lost their lives. On this note, I want to call on us all to rise and observe a minute silence in the honor of those that lost their lives in the collapsed building in Ikoyi. Mr. Clark, kindly observe 1 minute silence. And their souls rest in perfect peace. Still on the prayer, the last leg of the prayers, where the mandate of the house, they should drop the mandates, that they should just continue because it has the mandate of the house already. So we can give you what you have and add those things that has just been said by other members. Chairman.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, sir. Call on the Governor of Lagos State, Mr. Babajide Olusola Sanwo-Olu, to direct the relevant agency to ensure that all the building requirements as stipulated in the extant law of the state are strictly adhered to, and B, as matter of urgency, course of review of the policy on the building construction in the state. Mandate the house. No, the mandates. Okay, sir. And okay, and as amended, sir. To compensate the family.
Yeah, you've got it as amended.
Okay, as amended, sir.
Yeah. Honorable Chimi Mohammed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support the motion as amended.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. Those against, no. The ayes have it. Mr. Clark, kindly direct our results to appropriate court. Yeah, Majority Leader. Mr. Speaker, next on the other paper is House of Assembly Bill number 18, Lagos State School of Health Technology Bill 2020 for third reading, supported by myself, Honorable Adams, Honorable Merinda, Honorable Shogodara, Honorable Owolabi I, Honorable Kasumu A.R., Honorable Sani G.B.O., Honorable Shokule O.H., Honorable Raouf A.O. Mr. Speaker, with your kind permission, I wish to move that the Lagos State School of Health Technology Bill 2020 be read for the third time. I so move. Honorable Rahim.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rest to second the motion as moved.
All in favor, say aye. Those against, nay. The ayes have it. Mr. Clerk.
Thank you, Right Honorable Speaker, sir. Distinguished honorable members, it is a great honor and privilege to read for the third time a bill for a law to repeal and re-enact the Lagos State College of Health Technology and for connected purposes. Thank you very much.
A bill for a law to provide for the establishment and constitution of Lagos State College of Health Technology and for connected purposes. Page 1. Page 2. Page 3. Page 4. Page 5. Page 6. Page 7. Page 8. Page 9. Page 10. Page 11. 12. Page 13. Page 14. 15. 16. 17. Page 18. Page 19. Page 20. 21. 22. 23. Page 24. Page 25. Page 26. 27. 28. 29. 30. 31. That a bill for a law to provide for the establishment and the constitution of Lagos State College of Health Technology and for connected purposes be passed into law. All in favor say aye. Those against, nay. The ayes have it. Mr. Clerk, kindly pass the clean copy to Mr. Governor for his absence. Majority Leader.
Mr. Speaker, that is all we have listed for the day. And in view of the fact that we have come to the end of today's session, with your permission, I wish to move that the House adjourns till Thursday, the 11th day of this month at 10 o'clock. I so move.
Honorable Akosanya.
Congratulations in advance. I second the motion as moved, sir.
All in favor say aye. Those against nay, the ayes have it. This house stands adjourned the Thursday, 11 November 2021 at 10 a.m. prompt. Ayes.